Okay, so Montreszl Harrell is a player for the Los Angeles Clippers. The Los Angeles Clippers are playing the Dallas Mavericks in the playoffs. Luka Doncic is a Slovenian player, very, 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 very good player, 21-year-old for the Dallas Mavericks. Montrezl Harrell called Luka Doncic a little bit of a bad word, and people are up in arms about it, and we're going to break it down. So Montrez called Luka a bitch-ass white boy. And they're playing in a bubble. There's no fans. There's no audio. This was pretty easy to catch. So the cameras caught this, and this kind of became a big deal. And this is another one of those situations where there's so many layers, and it's like an onion. And I think people on both sides of the aisle were wrong again, per usual. And we're going to try and fix that. So let's take the actual situation. Let's take this really slow. So let's see what he said, right? Okay, so you have an African-American calling a Slovenian white guy a bitch-ass white boy. So the first question is this racist? So let's break that down. If he says, you can't guard me, white boy, is that racist? I'd say no. I would say no. That's a bit of a controversial yet brave statement because most people, when they hear white or black guy, white guy, they contribute it to a racial thing like that. You're racist. There's some people who believe that just saying blacks is a racial issue. Like that's a racist thing to say. And I don't subscribe to that. So I would say him saying, you can't guard me, white boy, is not a racist comment. Now, if he says, your bitch ass can't guard me, say, okay, well, that's obviously not racist, but it's derogatory. So the statement, you put it all together, you can't guard me, bitch ass white boy. So this is certainly derogatory, but I don't think it's racist. I wouldn't want someone to say that to me. I don't think it's great that he said it, but I don't think it's racist. And then we get to, let's flip it around, right? So if Luka says, you can't guard me, black boy, is that racist? Again, I would say no, because I think it goes both ways. But I certainly can see where the media would think that's racist. But before we get to that, let's keep going with our analogies. Then if Luka says, you can't guard, your bitch ass can't guard me. Again, it's like, well, that's obviously not racist, but it's very derogatory. So what's the problem? What do we do? What happens? What happened was really nothing. What happened was the media didn't really talk about it. It wasn't a big deal. And Montrez ended up apologizing to Luka the next day. And he, before the next game, he went up to Luka and said, hey man, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know what he said, but Luka talked about in the post game, and he was kind of like, look, didn't mean it racially, just came out, it's just a thing, shouldn't have said it, my bad, let's just squash this. And Luka said, no problem, whatever. We say stuff you don't want to say on the basketball court, sure, whatever, no problem. Now, obviously, this is a bit of a different situation because they're literally playing on a court that has Black Lives Matter written across the top of it. They're all playing in jerseys with social issues on the back. Montrez's social issue says equality. So Montrez is in a jersey that says equality on a court that says Black Lives Matter, and he's calling a Slovenian a white boy, bitch-ass white boy. And it's really kind of also impressive that you have this 21-year-old Slovenian who's living in a different country playing a predominantly African-American sport, and he has a social issue on the back of his jersey written in his home language. He's trying to navigate all this, and he gets called a bitch-ass white boy, and he handled it about as good as you possibly could. So why didn't the media pick this up? I think that's the question. And why were people not mad? And I think that answer is one and the same. We'll start with the why people weren't mad. People weren't mad because the media didn't pick it up. The echo chamber that is Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, they react to what they're told from the media. Look, that's just a thing, okay? Sounds bad, but it's a thing. If Stephen A. Smith would have came out the next day crucifying Montrez, and if Shannon Sharp and Max Kellerman and Skip Bayless and whoever else were destroying him the commenters and the people watching would have probably destroyed him. But they didn't. And that's why. Like, that's why it was not a backlash. And that's kind of feeds into why the media didn't do it. The media doesn't freak out and continue covering because there's not a backlash, because they didn't do it immediately. There's no echo chamber. It's over. Right? Now, the weird thing is, this is probably how it should be. You know, this is one of those things where, was it a good thing to say? No. Is it racist? I don't think it's racist. Racist is kind of a buzzword. Just because it has white boy in it doesn't mean it's racist, right? As weird as that sounds. Now, if he uses a slur, you know, if he says, I mean, crack, I mean, like, you can't have a slur for, if there's a Slovenian slur, like, I don't know a Slovenian slur, but if he says a Slovenian slur, then it's like, okay, well, now you're using a slur. Like, this is kind of an issue. But we've already established that I don't believe calling someone a white boy or a black boy or whatever is a racial slur. But if he uses a racial slur for white guy or racial slur for black guy, yeah, I mean, then all of a sudden it's an issue. Then all of a sudden you can get into, like, is this a hate crime or whatever? You know, like, that's a problem. That's obviously a problem. But this is probably how it should be dealt with, as far as nothing really happens. Players kind of squash it. It doesn't get overblown. It's not a slur, I wouldn't say. It's just one of those things. But the problem is, if Luka would have said it, the media would have absolutely ran with it, because the media knows, oh yeah, baby, this is getting clicks, this is getting views. Luka Doncic, 21-year-old MVP candidate, calls Montreszl Harrell a black boy. A bitch-ass black boy. On the court that says Black Lives Matter. While all this is happening. At 100% would have got picked up. And then it becomes huge news. Now, this is much more of an indictment on the media. This is much more of an indictment on the echo chamber. Because it's the exact same situation, but one incites a riot and one does not. And the media really is the one who has control over if that riot gets started or not. 100%. And again, this Montrezl Harrell thing, it's like, look, man, you definitely should not have said that. But is it one of those things where now you're a racist? Now you're suspended? Now you're removed from the game? I don't think so. But if Luka says it, he probably does lose his sponsors. He probably is suspended. He probably cannot play in the bubble, because they probably say, look, you can't play on a court that says Black Lives Matter. You can't wear those jerseys when you're out there saying what you're saying. And the media blows that up. And then it just becomes this enormous story. And does Luka ever recover? Who knows? Now, with that being said, I don't think the appropriate response from the other side is, well, if Luka would have said it, then it would have been blown up. So we should blow it up on Montrezl. Or Montrez. That's the classic two wrongs don't make a right. That's the classic vicious cycle. The cycle should end for sure. And this is a good time to end it. And just like what we talked about a few weeks ago with Jonathan Isaac and Drew Brees, the response to Jonathan Isaac and Drew Brees were completely different, but the Jonathan Isaac response was how it should have been. And that should be a learning period for the echo chamber, which they will not learn, because the echo chamber does not learn, ever. They do not grow, they do not adapt, ever. It should be a learning moment for the media, who they won't learn either. But this is how it should be. And this does temper things. This really could have been a really bad situation if Luka would have been the one saying this. And it probably would have derailed a really incredible career over relatively nothing. And there's a lot of dumb takes out there. Doug Gottlieb came out with a dumb take where he said this isn't racist, but he said it isn't racist. It's just what people say on the basketball court. But if Luka would have said it, hard to imagine what would have happened. Okay, well, the first part of it's just what people say on the basketball court. Hey, Doug, wake up, please. I don't know if you noticed, but people get canceled for what they say on the basketball court, and the baseball field, and the football field on a regular basis. Okay? Anyone saying Matt Barnes did this too, but anyone saying, oh, well, this is just spirit of the competition, athletes say this, can't take what people say you can't take what people say on the court seriously. It's just sports, man. It's just locker room talk. Kind of funny how we heard that before, right? And people say that it's not a thing. Kind of is a thing now, huh? But it's hard to say that when we have all these cameras. It's hard to say that when people are mic'd up. Kobe Bryant was fined for a slur he used on the basketball court. And it's one of those things where that's not true, right? The idea that players can say whatever they want on the quote-unquote field of battle, which I think is funny since they're playing a kids game. I think that's pretty crazy in today's climate. It's pretty dumb, actually, to believe that whatever is said in a sporting game is free reign when we have, infinite examples of that not being the case. I'm just riffing here, but when Myles Garrett slammed his helmet on the Mason Rudolph, the quarterback for the Steelers, what was Myles Garrett's defense? Myles Garrett's defense was that he said the N-word. Even though everyone said that no one heard him say the N-word, Myles Garrett's defense was, oh man, he said the N-word, so I tried to beat his brains in with a helmet. I don't remember anyone saying, hey, Myles, don't you know that whatever people say on the field doesn't matter? Don't you know that, bro? It's kind of interesting. It's probably because that's a really, really, really dumb take. So it's one of those things where it honestly is not a big deal because we don't let it be a big deal, because we don't think that like black boy, white boy, whatever is racist. Therefore, what he said is not that big of a deal. Therefore, this should not be anything more than, hey man, I messed up, shouldn't have said that. You know? It's like, if Montrez just calls Luka a bitch, I don't think anybody's coming out there and saying, hey man, are you misogynistic? Right? I don't know if people would have said that. So I believe this is appropriate, and this is probably how we should move forward with it. But it is interesting. It is interesting how they made this move in this situation, but not the other situation, or the other situations. And hopefully this is something we'll see more of. And I just want to give more credit to Luka. Like, imagine how difficult that is for a 21-year-old in a different country who's dealing with this much strife that we're dealing with, to deal with it how he did with just so much grace. It really is incredible. And, he has to be just really, really, really applauded here for how he's handling this whole situation. That's some sticky, sticky water. I couldn't imagine if I was playing basketball in, like, China. And I'm 21 years old, and China's dealing with, like, civil unrest. And I'm in the middle all of a sudden of an altercation that I really probably don't even understand. And I've got a social issue written on my back in Chinese. Like, it's a crazy universe.